All right. Hey guys, hope you are all doing well. It's about 1:15 and no one has shown up for this Q&A yet, which is fine because fortunately I do have a topic that I want to discuss today. And if you happen to be watching this on my YouTube channel, know that this video is actually an extended training I'm doing for people that are in my course. We do these kind of weekly Q&As and trainings. But because this is a topic that I think is very important to a lot of people, and since my clients aren't here, which means that no one's privacy is going to get affected, I might post this to my YouTube as well. All right, so the topic that I want to discuss today is the law of attraction and manifesting. Now, this isn't going to be a law of attraction coaching call where I'm going to promise you all the things that you can get in your life just by focusing positively on all the things that you want. No, what we're going to be talking about today is fixing up a lot of the myths and the misunderstandings about what the law of attraction is, how it works, and the impact that it can have in your life, and how you can use it, both at a practical level and at a metaphysical level, if you want to go in that direction. But the focus, I think, on today's talk and on the video is to deal with the practical elements of the law of attraction, where even if none of what we think about spirituality and 5D and other dimensions or the law of attraction is real, why the law of attraction is real anyway, why it works at a practical and a psychological level. And then we're also going to talk a bit about the metaphysical side and the spiritual side of what is happening with the law of attraction. Sorry, I just had an interesting thought. What is happening with the law of attraction, so that we can understand what's actually going on at the 5D level. We can understand why the way that we're thinking about it doesn't apply in that sense, or either way, we're going to correct a lot of myths and misunderstandings, and that's what this video is going to be about. Now, especially for those of you who might be watching this on the YouTube, most of what we're going to be going through in today's video is actually straight out of chapter 10 of my book, 10 Mind Hacks for Quicker Emotional Healing. I think that's coming out backwards on your end, but what are you going to do? So most of what we're going to talk about is actually in there. Now, the book, 10 Mind Hacks for Quicker Emotional Healing, it's not all about the law of attraction and manifesting. That's just chapter 10. But I do highly recommend that you check it out because it's going to clarify a lot about this. And of course, there's at least 9 other cool mind hacks for quicker emotional healing in that book. All right. So the reason why I want to talk about this today is because I've gotten at least 2 people in the last week who are misunderstanding the law of attraction in a way that's causing them a lot of stress and a lot of pain and a lot of confusion. Basically in this sense that they're worried that they control everything in their lives. That we discovered law of attraction, manifesting. We understand now in some context that our thoughts create our reality, or we understand in some way that we can steer in one direction or another. We understand this, I am attracting what I put out sort of thing. But they're understanding it from a very 3D point of view, from a very old school way, which makes them afraid that if I think too hard about a certain thing, then that thing is going to come into my life, or I can bring about really horrible things in my life by thinking too much about them. Now, yes, there is some truth to, firstly, that our thoughts create our reality, and there is some truth to what we focus on grows and what we focus on will come into our lives. But it's not this linear thing where, like, for example, one of the people that I'm speaking about today was worried that if she thinks too much about COVID, then she's going to get COVID. That's not how this works. This isn't a linear thing, like one-to-one, where it's a literal translation of I think about COVID, I get COVID, or I think about money, I get money. It doesn't work that way. I can sit around all day long thinking about gold bricks. I can meditate on gold bricks for the next year. I can never leave my apartment and think about gold, 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 gold. No matter how much I focus on that stuff, it's not just going to fall into my lap. That's not what the law of attraction does. That's not how it works. The law of attraction works, if we're talking about the metaphysical side, it's about energy. So the energy that we put out attracts similar energies. Now, I'm going to get to that a bit later on. So trying to think, where to start with all this, which is always, I've got so many things on my mind that I want to talk about with all this. So I think let's start off by talking about the practical element of what is, like, let's just say that none of the spirituality is real. Let's just say that law of attraction as a spiritual concept isn't real. There is still a very real element of how the law of attraction actually works. So let's talk about this phrase that your thoughts create reality. It is, it's true in a bunch of different senses. There's even the quantum kind of sense where your consciousness gives rise to your reality. I talk about this in my webinar. Most of you who are in this course saw the webinar at some point. And I talk about, I don't actually think I get too much into this. I reference, the quantum state, or I do have a video, I may have taken it down from my YouTube by now, but a video about how consciousness creates reality. And that is fairly literally true, that let's just say that there was no conscious being in all of existence. But let's just say that all physical stuff still technically existed. Hold on, sorry, I'm just waiting a moment because someone just joined the group. So to the client who just joined me, thank you so much. I'm in the middle of a talk right now. No one else is here, but I'm giving this talk about law of attraction and manifesting. So what we're talking about right now is I want to talk about the practical elements of what's going on with the law of attraction. And there is this phrase, that we're starting off with, which is, our thoughts create our reality. Now, as I was saying, this is entirely true in a few different ways, but it's not true in the ways that people think they are. So at the quantum level, it is true that our consciousness creates reality, because as I was in the middle of saying, let's just say, for the sake of a thought experiment, of an example, that there was no conscious being in all of existence, literally just none at all, no perceiver, no observer, no consciousness that can take part in reality. Let's just say. Now let's also say that in that reality, everything else still exists. There's still planets, there's still gases, there's still stars, there's still nature. Now, obviously, there's a bit of a potential discrepancy here because many of us know that even nature has a consciousness. Even rocks have a rudimentary form of consciousness. That's a whole different topic. We're not going to get into that. Let's just say that there is a universe where there is no consciousness there to experience it, but there are still physical things. In that universe, in what sense does anything actually exist? If there's nothing there to experience that which is, then in what sense is it? There's no experiential being. There's nothing that can happen. This physical rock cannot interact with anything, and therefore it never gains existence. It never gains reality. It never comes into being. Now, let me try and explain this in a way that I explained in this video that I had about how consciousness actually creates reality. So, for example, let's say you're at a concert and there's 10,000 people in the audience, and let's just say, you know what, let's say, for example, actually, that you're at a concert and there's only 5 people in the audience. One person is standing right up close, up in front of the stage. One person is standing, medium length to the left, the other medium length to the right, the other far away, like a kilometer away to the left, and then a kilometer away to the right. Let's just say there's a sixth person behind the stage. These are all of the people that are there to experience this concert. Now, let's go back to the old, ancient Chinese riddle of what's the sound? If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? If there is literally no one, let's just say these instruments are playing themselves and there's literally no one there, is there sound? Not exactly. There are still sound waves. There are still frequencies. There is still vibration happening, but sound waves are not sound. Vibrations are not sound. You know what sound is? Sound is the interaction of those vibrations with an instrument that can detect it, such as our ears and our eardrums, and the consciousness that is experiencing it. So let's just say you had a brain dead person who has eardrums. Now there are vibrations and there is an eardrum in the ear that's vibrating, but there's no consciousness there to experience sound. And therefore those vibrations and even the vibrations in your ear never become sound. Or if you took something else where there is a conscious being there to experience it, but that being doesn't have eardrums or doesn't have a part of the brain that can process auditory signals, then there is no sound. So without a consciousness there to experience it, there is no sound. Got it? Great. Now let's get back to that example of one person in the front, two people at medium lengths on either side, and two people further away at the back. Each one of those people is going to experience the sound differently. The person up front is going to experience a lot more of the booming bass. They're not going to hear as much of the high-end treble. They're going to experience much more of the feel of the music, but they're not going to get the full tone and the full expression of it. They're going to get a lot of that force that's right up there, although they are still absolutely hearing sound. Now, the people that are, medium length, left and right, if you are mixing in stereo, which, most music is like if you put on headphones right now, just about like 99% of music out there, modern music, is mixed in stereo, meaning that what the left ear is getting is different from what the right ear is getting. And your brain puts those together and creates a singular sound. So let's just say that was going on at a concert, which it's not usually. I'm a sound engineer, but like, whatever, let's leave that aside for now. Normally a concert won't have left and right, it'll just be the same. But let's just say, you're standing there and the person at the left and the person at the right are receiving different signals. The person on the right side is going to receive the sound from the right speaker much more quickly and much more intensely than the sound from the left speaker. So they are experiencing a certain sound over here, the culmination of the vibrations coming from both speakers ending up at their eardrums and then getting processed through their eardrums and their auditory sequencing into their experience of reality. Their experience of it is when it turns into sound. And the person on the other side is going to get a very different perspective. They're going to get a very different experience of the sound. And people at the back, same deal. They're going to experience a little less volume. They might hear a little more clarity of the subtleties of the music, but they won't get as much of that booming bass. They're not. So point being, because I'm getting off on a tangent here, point being, each one of these observers, by being there, gives rise to the event that we call sound. And each one of these experiencers experiences a different reality, a completely different actual version of what sound is coming out of these speakers. So what we've just demonstrated is that without consciousness, there is no reality. And with consciousness, your reality is specific to you. So there is one very real sense in which we can say that consciousness creates reality. Okay, so it is a real thing. But even in this example, these people standing in the audience are not, by their thoughts and by their consciousness, creating the sound that is coming out of the speakers. Now, I'm going to get more into all of this, but that is really the huge distinction that we need to make right here. The difference between your thoughts create your reality in terms of they create your reality, like, versus your thoughts create your reality in terms of up here and what's going on inside. This is the difference, that some people seem to think that when we talk about the law of attraction, we talk about this idea that your thoughts create reality. They think it means that your thoughts create reality. That like this observer in the crowd, if he thinks about guitar, then a guitar is going to come out of the speakers. The sound of a guitar is going to come out of the speakers. And if he thinks about a tuba, then the sound of a tuba is going to come out of the speakers. No, that's not how it works. But his perception is creating the reality. So the reason why I use this concert example is because by standing in a certain position in this field, you know, I'm thinking of an outdoor concert, by standing at a certain position in this field, his or hers, his specific version of those sound waves comes into reality. If he like there is a very specific version of the interplay of the sounds coming from the left speaker and the right speaker, traveling through a particular distance in space, arriving at that particular space, where if there was like, there is a real culmination of experience there. The sound is experienced in one particular way over there. And if that person wasn't standing there, then that particular version of reality that we just established really exists would never come into existence. Because if he was standing a foot back or a foot forward or a foot to the left or a foot right, his experience would be different. It would be minimally different. Most of us, we don't notice that, but it would be different. 1 foot forward and a different version of reality would come into existence. So if there are 10,000 people in the crowd, then there are 10,000 real versions of the sound that is coming out of the speakers. But if there are no people in the crowd, then those sound waves never gain that realistic status of sound. They are still vibrations and they are still sound waves. But until they get experienced, they are not sound. Okay, so yes, consciousness does create reality. But now moving on to another stage, because I just wanted to clarify that sort of thing, that like, yes, there is a way in which consciousness creates reality, but let's move on now to this idea of thoughts creating reality. Yes, it is true that our thoughts create our reality, but they create our reality up here and in here. They do not create my reality outside of me. Not directly, not specifically. In the long run, they do, and I'm going to talk about this. This is the practical sense in which law of attraction actually works. There is a practical reality to it. But as I was saying earlier, there's no sense in which if I'm going to sit here and think about gold all day long, I want gold, or just imagining gold bricks, gold bricks, gold bricks. If I was able to keep my eyes shut for a year straight and meditate on this notion of gold bricks, I wouldn't then open up my eyes and see gold bricks in front of me. That's not how it works. Your thoughts don't create reality in that sense. They create your perception of reality. So this really has a lot more to do with our, I guess let's say I'm going to put it into really simple terms right now. It really has to do like optimism versus pessimism. If you are an optimistic person, then you are experiencing a certain version of reality where whatever you're experiencing right now, even if it may be bad, is always leading to the good sort of thing, versus, you know, a pessimistic person might win the lottery and see all of the worst in it. You know, like, oh my God, I just won $1 million and now I've got to pay $300,000 in taxes and now I have to hire an accountant and now I have to do all of these things, versus a person who finds $10 on the street and goes, oh my God, my life is amazing and everything is the best ever. Those two people are living in two completely different realities. And it has to do with their thoughts. It doesn't have to do with the reality outside of them. To use a sort of maybe a different or maybe a simpler, more direct example. I have a friend, at least one person who I'm thinking of, and there's a second, but whatever. There's one person I'm thinking of who, he and I, even when we're sitting directly across the table from each other, we live in different realities. I live in a reality where, firstly, life is good. Life is meant to be enjoyable and people are genuinely good, even the evil ones. I live in a world where a person who is being cruel to you is actually in a lot of pain themselves. And therefore, there's no point in me judging them. There's no point in me getting angry at them. That's the world that I live in. I live in a world where spirituality is real, where there's multiple dimensions and all that. I live in a world where I am a multidimensional spiritual being having a human experience right now. I live in a world where people are genuinely good and, you know, life is generally good and just things tend to work out for me. Not because they actually work out for me more than they work out for my friend, but because that's the way that I choose to see things. Whereas he lives in a world where everyone is stupid and everyone is awful, and he just wants to run away to a cabin in the woods and never be a part of society again because everyone is awful and the world is full of violence and everything is just always going to go wrong kind of thing. And he lives in a world where there's no such thing as self-improvement and everything, you know, just where people don't change and, you know, where friends always leave you kind of thing. We live in completely different realities, even though we're sitting right across from the table from each other and experiencing the exact same thing. So, you know, we can both he and I can experience the exact same phenomenon, but we're going to experience it two completely different ways. And to me, it's going to be a good thing, whereas for him, it's necessarily a bad thing. So even, you know, I talk about this a lot, guys, that even in moments where I'm not feeling good, where, you know, I was, you know, for the last week or so, I didn't really get much done. I don't want to say I don't think I had anxiety really most of the week, but I wasn't feeling great. You know, I had very little energy. I got very little done. I felt a little bit worried about some things in my life, even though the majority of me, the vast majority of me keeps on reminding myself, look, Bench, you've got nothing to worry about. Everything is fine. You're divinely guided every step of the way. And you've seen that a million times over. So you have nothing to worry about. Part of me kind of felt like worrying during that time. I can't, you know, help everything. But I'm bringing that up to express that even during that time, when I'm not feeling good, I am able to maintain the mentality and the reality that this is just a passing phase, that I'm going to get through it. I'm going to come out the other end. And in fact, I'm happy to be feeling this way, which there's obviously a huge paradox there because I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling lonely or I'm feeling whatever. How can I be happy to be feeling lonely? You can't really be experiencing both of those at the same time. Ish. I'm going to leave aside that paradox just to explain what I'm talking about. What I'm really saying is that I have attained a level where I can see the good in the bad. I understand now that when I'm not feeling good, that's actually unresolved emotions coming to the surface to be released. Fantastic. So I'm not feeling good in this moment. Thank you. I am so glad to be not feeling good in this moment because this is how my life is going to get better. By allowing myself to experience this emotion without needing to justify it, without needing to explain it, without needing to solve it, to just experience it and let these emotions run through me, these old trapped emotions that are of no use to me anymore, to finally get released because I am experiencing them right now, because you have to feel it to heal it. You need to let this run through you. So I have attained a certain level where even the bad moments in life are things that I can be happy about and grateful for, knowing that on the other side of it, my life is about to get better. And starting today, maybe a little, actually yesterday or 2 days ago, yeah, I started feeling a whole lot better and that negativity passed. And now I am feeling stronger. And some things are progressing in my life, and I can see, you know, the sun beyond the clouds kind of thing. I'm seeing how that portion of me not feeling very well is leading to something better. So on the other hand, you've got my friend who, even in a good experience, will find all the negative about it and stays in this negative mentality about all of it. So it is in that sense that our thoughts create our reality. They don't actually create the things outside of you. I don't get to think about gold and then experience gold. I get to think about positivity, and therefore not think about positivity. I get to reinforce my habit of positive thinking so that I can take certain actions and move in a certain direction of my life. So this is the beginning, and I'm going to talk about this now, of the practical way in which the law of attraction actually works. So let's talk about some of the basics of this. You know, those of you who are in my course are going to understand this reference. Those of you who aren't, try and follow with me. You know, it's not going to get, we're not talking about anything complicated. We're just talking about an exercise that's part of my course. So at the beginning, one of the first things that we do in this course is a manifesting exercise or an intention setting exercise, whichever wording you want to put onto it. But when I first discovered it, it was a manifesting exercise. Now, I adjusted it a bit and I created my own version for the purposes of my course. But I did a version of it where it was straight up a manifesting exercise. But as I explain in the course, when we are doing this initial exercise, the reason why I don't want to call it a manifesting exercise is because I don't want to give off the wrong impression. What we are writing in the manifesting exercise doesn't matter at all. It's not about the things that you are writing. And I express this to all my students when we're doing it. I think I actually express it after the exercise to help clarify. But anyways, the point of the exercise is not at all what you are writing there. It's not about the fantasy job that you're writing about. It's not about that fantasy car and the fantasy house and the fantasy love life and the fantasy social life. None of those practical things actually matter. What matters is the emotions that these things bring up. That is why we do the exercise. And that is overall the summary of what this whole video is about and what I'm really talking about in terms of law of attraction manifesting. That what really creates our reality is our emotions. So our perception of positive versus negative, of pessimism versus optimism, of, you know, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, is associated with our emotions. Are you able to feel some sense of gratitude, some sense of happiness, even when things aren't going your way? Or are you always going to feel pressure and shame and guilt, even when things are going well? What we are trying to do with that manifesting exercise, and what we're trying to do with law of attraction, both at the practical level and at the metaphysical level, which I'll talk about later, is using our emotions to steer us in the right direction. Because it is super obvious that someone who is super pessimistic and hates life is going to take a certain set of actions versus someone who is optimistic and who loves life, the actions that that person is going to take. So if we convince ourselves that life is horrible and life is awful and everyone out there is an idiot and an asshole and everyone is out to get me and everyone is a con artist kind of thing, then we are going to act according to those beliefs. So we are going to experience things a certain way, where even when we find $10 on the ground, instead of being grateful for the $10 we just found, we might think about the $50 that we lost last week and be like, okay, great, I found $10 now, but shit, I'm still down $40 total. That type of thinking is going to push you in a particular direction. It's going to get you to make certain choices based on those beliefs because you expect things to go a certain way. They're also going to affect your interactions with other people because you are always grumpy. You are always pessimistic. You are always rude and aggressive because that's the way that you believe the world to be. So when someone is kind to you, you're going to, you know, be rude and aggressive back. Or maybe you'll say thank you, but you won't really mean, you won't really be in that situation. So here are all of these opportunities in your life. Every moment of every day is an opportunity to meet someone, an opportunity to make a connection, an opportunity to get an idea, or blah, 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 blah. And you're not going to take any of those actions. You're not going to interact with these people in a proper way. You're not going to build the connections that can be built because you are a pessimistic, angry, and bitter person. When you allow that to seep into who you are and to become your personality, then that leads you in a particular direction. Like if you believe that you becoming wealthy is impossible, it's never going to happen. It's ridiculous. Like I was born poor and I'm going to die poor, and that's all there is to it. If you have that belief, these are thoughts. A belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. There's a little deeper to that, but I'm not going to get into it for now. So a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. So if you have these thoughts, if you have these beliefs that life is always going to be a struggle for you, then when someone offers you the opportunity to escape that struggle, to become wealthy, you're not going to take them up on the offer. Because it sounds like a scam to you. It sounds like nonsense. It sounds like bullshit. If you believe that you are always going to be poor, then when someone offers you, your dream job that pays $10,000 an hour kind of thing, which, okay, fine, that sounds too good to be true, but like, you get what I'm saying. If someone offers you the opportunity of a lifetime, you're not going to take it. You're not going to act on it. You're going to find all the reasons why this can't work and it's nonsense and it's impossible and blah, 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 blah. So you are not going to move in that direction. And therefore, your life is going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. For example, this same friend that I was talking about, he actually had an accident when we were about 16. I wasn't there, but when he was about 16, he had a really bad accident. He fell off of a second story onto his head. He actually died twice on the way to the hospital. And since that day, because of, kind of what the doctors told him, the doctors actually told him he wouldn't walk again. And he walked out of the hospital a week later. You'd think he would have learned something from that. Anyways, the doctors told him all these nasty things about his life and about his health, moving forward, which of course are true. He did have a nasty accident. There was a lot going on. But because of that, ever since that day, he has decided to himself that he's going to die young and that his health is crap, that he's just doomed to be unhealthy. And therefore, he's never really tried to take control of his health. He has actively made decisions. These aren't necessarily the best examples, but you get my point. Like he has continued smoking as much as he wanted. He's continued eating a shitty diet. There have been times where he's tried to get his weight in order, but short-lived, and he goes, he loses a bit of weight and then gains it all right back kind of thing. Or he hasn't, he doesn't take care of himself in any way really, because he's already decided that he's going to die young and his health is useless, that it's done. So it's a fait accompli, as they say in French. It's an already done fact. It's already completed, like there's nothing left to fight against, nothing left to struggle against. So because he has made this decision that he's going to die young, then he has made decisions that reinforce this fait accompli, that yes, he's going to die young because he is living as if he is going to die young. So he's still smoking, he's eating like shit, he's not exercising, he's not taking care of himself, he's not doing what doctors suggest, he's not taking proper medications, just all of these things. He's not living his life in a way that will lead towards an embetterment of himself. He is living in a way that reinforces his already negative beliefs. Versus me, where I'm not where I want to be in my life just yet, but I believe that life has more for me. I believe that a lot can be achieved. I believe that I'm here to do something. And because of those beliefs, because of those thoughts, remember we're talking about your thoughts create your reality. Because of those thoughts, I live in a different world where my potential is limitless, let's say, and where there's always room for something good to happen. And therefore, I take the chances. I move in that direction. So if I lived, you all know I just published my first 2 books. If I lived in this pessimistic world that he lived in, when I had those ideas or when I felt that urge to start writing books, I wouldn't have done it. Because, oh, this never works. This is never going to happen. No one's ever going to read this stuff. And maybe I'm going to be criticized and maybe people are going to hate me for it and blah, 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 blah. So I never would have taken those steps. So my thoughts up here create my reality in terms of they are creating my perception of what is real. Okay, so your thoughts determine your attitude towards what is happening. So a person who believes, like me, that wealth is inevitable. I am meant to be wealthy and successful by doing meaningful work, not by just I'm going to sell my soul for money kind of thing, but I believe that I am here to serve a purpose. And because I'm going to live my best life kind of thing, it will inevitably lead me to the level of success and wealth that I want. Not that I need, but that I want, when I envision my best life for myself. Yes, it involves wealth, not because I care about money, but because I want the freedom to pursue anything that comes to mind, including all sorts of advanced spiritual healing so that I can improve myself and improve other people kind of thing. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Point being, because I believe it to be inevitable or at least achievable, then I make certain decisions that lead me in that direction. Okay. So when I had this urge to write a book, when I got this inner intuition, I followed through with it, as opposed to him, where he has ideas for things that he could do, but doesn't, because he believes that everything is terrible and that nothing is ever going to work out. My twin flame is very much the same. Anyways, not going to get into that. So our perception and our beliefs determine what actions we are going to take. This is how it works at the practical level. Okay, so our thoughts and our beliefs make us take certain action. So it's not that, like, if I think so much about COVID, then if I worry a lot about COVID, then COVID is going to appear in my reality kind of thing. But it might be the sense that if I believe that catching COVID is inevitable and like everything is terrible and everything's out to get me, then maybe I won't protect myself. Maybe I won't wear a mask. Maybe I'll walk into a room with a bunch of confirmed COVID people and I won't stop myself from doing it because, well, I'm going to get COVID anyway, kind of thing. So that's the issue in which your thoughts create your reality, and it pushes you in a certain direction where, here's something I want to, it comes down to which energies are you going to follow at any given time. So I don't really think I need to draw this, but I'm going to draw it anyway, just for the hell of it. So there are always going to be ups and downs in life. So what the law of attraction really does is so these are the ups and downs. Now, which are you focusing on? If you're a pessimistic person, then you're up here. And optimistic person, you're up here. If you're a pessimistic person, you're down there. And what's going to happen is that for a pessimistic person who's down here, when you are at the top, when you are feeling good like that, to you, it's a break from reality. This is where your reality is. That's what you experience down there. You think that's what is real. And oh, here's a little brief respite from the horribleness that is reality. And oh, I get to enjoy this good moment. Everything's great. But because you're pessimistic, you're not going to capitalize on that moment. You're not going to do anything about it. You're not going to use that moment for anything. So you're going to enjoy it as much as you can, I suppose, as a pessimistic person. And then energies continue and they're going to drop back down until you're down here. And here, that's your comfort zone. That's your reality. So you are going to take action in those moments when things are really getting pessimistic, and you are going to train yourself to move further down. So because you are pessimistic, you are going to capitalize on that moment of negativity. So when you hit there, you're going to dip down even a little bit more because you're going to take more action based on the negative things in your life, which is going to reinforce negativity. So because you're a pessimistic person, this moment of bad is going to become worse. So now your low That was your lowest point there before. But now, because you're a pessimistic person who took certain actions, this is your lowest point. You have now made the bar, you've brought the bar down. This was the lowest point possible in your life before, but now you're pessimistic and you chose certain actions. So that's the worst part in your life now. And now when you have your next up, it's not going to go as high as it could have gone before, because you have now taken actions that reinforce the negativity. And so now as you hit your next low, ooh, this is my comfort zone again. This is what feels real to me. And I'm going to take more negative action. I'm going to end up down there. Then I'm going to go up again and still not as high as it was before. See, that's lower. That's lower. Okay. So you are going to capitalize on whichever energy resonates more with your beliefs. Whereas if you are, let's try that again. Let's, if you are an optimistic person kind of thing. So this is your average wave over here. Now, for example, like with me, when I'm experiencing a moment down here, or the worst over there, I remind myself, okay, this is just a passing phase. It's just something that happens. This is actually where healing happens. Great. I'm grateful. I'm glad that I get to experience this so that I can take action in this moment that will actually heal me. So in this moment, as I reach down there, instead of dipping down further there, I'm instead going to dip up a little bit, right to over there, because I hit the bottom. And instead of reinforcing my belief that this is a terrible thing, I'm going to reinforce the positive belief that, ooh, this is actually a good thing because I'm healing now. So now I'm a little higher than I would have been if I was there. Now I'm going to get up to the top, and I'm going to raise up a little bit higher than I would have before. And when I get to the top, I am going to capitalize on those feelings and on those beliefs. So then I'm going to take an extra step up. Great. Now I'm higher than I would have been before. But of course, life still has ups and downs. So I'm still going to go down, and then I'm going to experience that over there. But again, I'm going to use it to my benefit, and I'm going to heal a little bit. And I'm going to raise up even higher than I was last time. Over and over and over. Wow, that is, I am like, even when I'm drawing just lines, I have terrible handwriting. It's really pathetic. It really is. So that is overall the practical sense in which the law of attraction is real, even if the law of attraction isn't real. What you think, what you believe is going to push you to either capitalize on the good things in your life or to reinforce the negative things in your life. Now, it doesn't happen in this linear sense where, let's say my focus right now is to find love. It's not a linear sense where when I'm feeling good, I now get to decide, ooh, love is what I'm going to get in this moment. It's not how it works. In a moment of positivity, all it means is that I am now in the best possible mindset and emotion to take advantage of whatever the world throws at me. Maybe it will be love. But if I'm so desperate on trying to manifest love in my life in that moment, but the universe is sending me an opportunity to earn money instead, then I'm still not going to follow it. So that's another false perception about, even at the practical level, how the law of attraction might work. You don't get to decide what it is that's coming into your life. You only get to decide how you are going to respond to the options that are being shown to you at any given time. So the pessimistic person is always going to make the worst of a situation, and an optimistic person is always going to make the best of a situation. But an optimistic person who believes too much in a direct manifesting belief is going to miss the opportunity to make money, miss the opportunity to make a friend, miss the opportunity to learn something, because that's not what was happening in that moment. And that's where, surrender comes into play with the law of attraction, which hopefully I'll talk about that a bit after. I'll come back around to it. So we need to have a positive, a loving, a self-loving perspective about ourselves and about the universe so that we can attract what we want into our lives. Because if I don't have a positive point of view, then I will take actions that reinforce the negative, thereby attracting the negative into my life. Or here's another sense of, let's use this word, attraction. So a pessimistic person is not going to get along as well with super optimistic people. If you take this one person who believes that life is terrible and everything's always going to go wrong for me, and you put them in a room with a bunch of really optimistic, happy, helpful people, then they're not going to click. To a certain extent, the optimistic people are going to try to, engage with this pessimistic person because they're optimists, they're kind, they're loving. We're going to try and cheer this person up, kind of thing. But we're not going to get along in the long run. So your negative attitude and energy is pushing away the positive, successful, happy, and loving people in your life, whereas it's going to attract the negative people. Misery loves company. The more miserable you are, the more that you are going to get along with people who are miserable. Therefore, you are attracting misery into your life. You're not attracting any specific thing. You're not attracting COVID. You're not attracting cancer. You are attracting negativity, pessimism, fear, guilt, anger, shame, because those are the people that resonate with you. And, it's a common phrase by all business coaches out there, anyone who's, in the success mindset kind of field. If you hang out with 5 successful people, you will be the 6th one. If you hang out with 5 failures, you will be the 6th one. Because who you hang out with is part of your brain food. It's part of what you're allowing into your mind and into your reality. It's why we integrate ourselves into a certain society. We're taught a certain set of rules, a certain perspective about the world, and that's what we adopt. And breaking out of these unintended cycles that we've been in is what all of this healing is about. But point being, we adopt the energies, the attitudes, and the beliefs of these people around us. So when I allow negativity to take over inside of me, then I will actively push away the people who are optimistic because they piss me off. They don't resonate with me. And I look at them as fools. A pessimist looks at an optimist like a fool. Oh, you're way too trusting and people are going to take advantage of you, or oh, wow, you put way too much effort into things that aren't going to pay off, kind of thing. They look at you as if you're wasting your time and your energy, and as if you're going to be taken advantage of because of your kindness and because of your optimism, kind of thing. So they have this different perspective, and they are going to push away the positive influences in their lives. Whereas on the other side of it, we are learning how to act from self-love. And part of what we talk about in this course is the more that you learn to act from self-love, the more that you will naturally, kindly, and compassionately separate yourself from anyone that is draining your energy. So an optimist will naturally, a self-loving optimist will naturally push away anyone that is draining their energy, anyone that doesn't resonate with their positivity and their optimism. So me, as a positive, optimistic person, I'm going to gravitate more and more towards successful, happy, loving, optimistic light workers who are going to inspire me and push me and encourage me to be a better version of myself. I did that by attracting them into my life by controlling my thoughts, my energy, and my emotions. Because I don't want to give in to negativity. I don't want to give in to anger and sadness and all that sort of stuff, which is, sorry, I didn't mean to say sadness there, because there's nothing wrong with feeling sad. Okay, so let's not get hung up on that. But because I choose to live in an optimistic way, I move in that direction. I attract those kinds of people, those kinds of thoughts, those kinds of attitudes, and those kinds of opportunities into my life. Because the negative, pessimistic people that I might hang out with on the other side of things don't have good opportunities for me. Even if they are technically a successful business person, someone who is on the negative side of things is going to offer me a negative job. A job where I'm taken advantage of, or I'm not appreciated, a job where, we've all had these jobs where your boss is a piece of shit. you know, where he's always yelling at you, he's always angry, he's always like, he's not encouraging you to be the best version of yourself. And these businesses always inevitably fail, short of, you know, unethical, like, you know, we run a business in a way that takes advantage of people. That business might succeed, but it's destroying that person's soul. Anyways, we won't get into that for now. So we attract, by our thoughts, by our emotions, by our attitudes, a certain set of circumstances. We don't attract a very specific thing, but because I have a wealthy person's mindset, I am going to get along more with wealthy people. And because I'm hanging around with wealthy people, I will be instilled with beliefs about how money is easy to come by, about how $10 is not a lot of money versus the pessimistic person who's afraid to let go of $10. You know, where if I believe that $10 is a lot of money, then I'm never going to get to the point where I can earn. I don't like talking about money too much. So I don't know why I keep using this example, but if I believe that love is impossible to come by kind of thing, then I will never allow myself to be in that emotional space of love where love can come to me, where I can achieve love. So in that same sense, I'll finish the example that I was using. Like if I believe that $10 is a lot of money, then I will never be able to get to a point in my life where I feel comfortable asking for $20 an hour to perform my job. Because to me, oh my God, $10 is a lot of money. And I'm so unbelievably grateful to be getting this $10 an hour into my life, which we all know, shit, $10 an hour is not a livable wage. But to someone who comes from a really poor mindset, who believes that $10 is a lot of money, it's going to be harder for that person to demand proper livable wage while being in alignment with themselves. Because they know that like, oh shit, I need $20 an hour to live. But $10 an hour is such a huge amount of money that I feel very uncomfortable asking my boss for a raise. I feel very uncomfortable receiving this kind of money in my paycheck. And therefore, you are never going to achieve that next stage in your life. So this is the practical way in which law of attraction is real. And this is what you need to understand and to use at the beginning when you're dealing with the law of attraction. Let's leave out the metaphysical and the spiritual of all of these, like, oh, I can attract whatever I want into my life because I am a creator being kind of thing. Yes, that is true from a particular perspective, but not from the perspective that you're in right now. Okay, so that's the practical side. Now let's move on a little bit to the spiritual side and talk about this. I think what I was just saying was, you know, you're never going to get to that point of understanding or of emotional ability to become this creator being that you think you are. So what we were just talking about was sort of the 3D perspective. We were talking about thoughts and beliefs, which aren't actually 3D things, but we're talking about our navigation through the 3-dimensional world. You know, your thoughts will create your actions, which are 3-dimensional. They're not things. Actions are not 3-dimensional things, but they're determining your actions in the 3-dimensional world and who you attract into your life in the 3-dimensional world. They're talking about, you know, we're talking about physical, like actual things in the real world. That's the practical sense. Now, if we want to move on to the more spiritual sense, where you are in fact a creator being, then none of what we just spoke about and none of your thought processes right now are going to be applicable at all. Logic, in the way that you think about logic, does not apply at all in the metaphysical sense. Cause and effect, the way that you know them, do not apply at all in the metaphysical world, in this spiritual way. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of people, and the people that are worried about this thing that I said, you know, that these people had reached out to me because they're afraid of what their thoughts are going to bring in if they think about something too much. They are trying to use 3-dimensional thinking for a 5th-dimensional concept. It doesn't work. It's impossible. It's two completely different things. So as I was saying earlier, that sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. So we need to switch from a three-dimensional lens to a fifth-dimensional lens in order to make sense of this I am a creator being kind of thing. So as I was saying earlier, that like it's not a linear one-to-one literal creation where if I think about gold, I get gold. It's not about that. It's about if I maintain the energy and the emotion of love, of wealth, of happiness, then I will attract love and wealth and happiness in the abstract form. So we need to learn to think about things in the abstract in order to start making any sense at all of what happens in the metaphysical version of what's going on with the law of attraction. So Nikola Tesla used to say, I mentioned this a bunch, that if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That is what we need to get to in order to make sense of manifesting and law of attraction at the spiritual realm. Now, that doesn't mean you need to intellectually understand that everything is energy. I mean, yes, you do, but that's not what's going to get you there. An intellectual understanding of the fact that everything is energy, if you're still thinking about things in the same literal, linear, three-dimensional way, doesn't help at all. You need to actually start seeing things in terms of energy. Now, here's how I can express this the best. Hopefully, you've all seen the Matrix movie. You know, it applies very much to awakening and all that. It is, so let's just say that the Matrix is real, that we're all living in a simulation right now. And let's just say that you know that. It is one thing to be aware of the fact that you live in a simulation. And it is another completely to see the code of the Matrix the way that Neo does at the end of the first movie. Now, the way that he sees it in the first movie, we actually still see the outline of the physical world because they highlight some of the line, you know, some of the code that represents Agent Smith's body or the hallway or whatever. So even though he is seeing only the code, he can still kind of see reality. But we want to look at this more in terms of straight up seeing the code, like as if you were looking at a computer screen. That is the level of perception that you need to get to in order to truly and fully understand the metaphysical side of manifesting in the law of attraction. And if you're not there yet, then I encourage you to just focus on the practical side of everything that I just mentioned, because none of what I'm about to say, even if it makes sense to you intellectually, is going to make sense to you in the way that it needs to make sense in order for you to understand it. But I'm going to explain all of this anyway, so that you can gain this understanding and hopefully help move yourself towards being able to actually see things in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now, I don't mean that literally in terms of seeing with your eyes. I mean it more in the sense of, I can see it. I see, again, not literally with my eyes, but I can perceive and understand all of the ways that energy is actually being transferred between people in various senses. Like I mentioned this in, I think, last week's Q&A, where I was walking through a park and I saw parents with their kids. And I saw the exact same traits in the children as I saw in the parents. Like for one of them, he had the very same kind of gut, you know, they both the father and the son were overweight in the exact same way. And another one, I saw the way that they walked was a little bit off, both in the same way of the parent and the child. Or this facial expression where, like, you know, one side of the face was tensed up, both the same in the parent and the child. I can see this. I can see how energy is being passed from one to another. I look at these things in the physical world and my brain instantly understands the energy side of things, what is actually happening, that the energy and the emotional trauma of the parent that is controlling every decision and every movement that they make in their life is being passed down to their kid, not even in a direct sense, but every single moment that this child spends around their parent, it's getting ingrained into them through every word that the parent speaks, through every step that they take, through every motion that they make. They are giving off a certain energy and a certain frequency. And I can see this now. I don't need logic to understand it. And I don't even need to necessarily I don't need to understand it. I don't need to think about it. I don't need to figure it out. I can see it. It's right in front of me. There's no denying how, oh, right, yeah, the energy is being passed down from generation to generation. So I can see things in terms of energy, and I can see how me acting according to my pessimism versus acting according to my optimism is energy, how it has a certain effect. So I can see energy, even though I don't literally see energy the way that some people see auras. So I can actually see this stuff. Now, let me try and express this in a different way. You're watching me on a screen right now, and you're watching me through a particular lens that is meant to capture a particular range of light frequencies. You can see what is visible in the physical world, in the physical spectrum, to a set of human eyes that can see a certain particular range of visual frequencies. That's what you are looking at right now, okay? And you can see my body, you can see this marker, you can see the wall behind me. Now, let's say that you were to look at me instead through a lens that was designed to see heat signatures. So if you were only seeing heat signatures, now all of a sudden, you're in the same place. You're still looking at the exact same thing, but you're not going to see at all what you're seeing here right now. You're going to see a big red blur, where my body actually is, and you're going to see a bit of yellow around my body where my heat is being given off, but it's dissipating a little bit. You're not going to see anything there. You're not going to see anything behind me because this wall is not giving off a heat signature. So even though you are in the same place, you are now no longer perceiving things the same way. And when you are looking at things through this heat lens, the wall doesn't exist. If you are a being that is composed entirely of heat and no physical matter, then you can walk through this wall. It doesn't exist in your reality. This is what it means to be multidimensional. So when you're looking at it through this lens of heat, there is an overlap between these two dimensions. My physical body that exists in this physical world is also a heat signature that exists in the heat signature world, whereas this wall doesn't exist in the heat signature world. Now, please excuse some of the science of this metaphor that I'm giving. I hope you understand what I'm saying, because yes, even a wall might have a particular heat signature kind of thing. I don't know if cold matter like this is technically giving off some minimal heat signature. Let's not get into that. But you understand, hopefully, the difference of what I'm talking about, which is that to a being that is composed entirely of heat or of temperature, again, getting a little mixed up with the actual science here, so please just try and follow the example and the metaphor. This wall doesn't exist. This couch doesn't exist. Anything that does not have a particular heat signature doesn't exist. And think about it also in the reverse way, that right now you're looking at me. And if you were to look at it through the heat signature lens, then you would interpret that the heat signature is a representation of the truth, which is my physical body. But what if you are a being composed entirely of heat? Then heat is reality. It is the truth. And if that heat signature being were to look through a lens that showed them the physical reality, then this would actually be the representation of the heat body. To them, heat is the core truth. And this is the representation, the mirror of it. Whereas to us, this is the real truth, and heat is the mirror. It's the representation. So we need to learn how to look at the world through the lens of energy in order to make sense of how the law of attraction actually works at the metaphysical sense. Because you are giving off a particular energy of love, a particular energy of, or let's separate this into categories. Let's say the category of love, the category of wealth, the category of friendship, the category of health. In each one of these categories, you hold a particular frequency. So in the category of love, either you are in a receptive mode or you are in a rejection kind of mode, where either your frequency, very much like a magnet, is either going to attract love or it's going to attract hate or repel love. Let's talk easier. Your frequency in the category of love it's set to a particular frequency where either you're going to attract love or you are going to repel it. So we need to take control of our energy such that we can be in a place that attracts love. Same with our wealth. Either I'm going to be in an emotional state, in an energy state, and in a mind state that is conducive to attracting wealth, or I am in a frequency that is conducive to repelling wealth. Same with physical health, same with friendships, same with everything else. So we are constantly giving off a particular energy which is either attracting or repelling. Now, just because I'm attracting or repelling certain things doesn't mean that I get to literally and intentionally control whether or not I'm going to meet the love of my life today. It's not how it works. I can be in the vibration of attracting love, but it's not my time yet. This is, I don't know if I'm getting distracted from what I wanted to say towards this, but this is a very important point that we don't get to decide the timing of our lives. We don't get to really decide the journey of our lives, not from this particular mindset and reality, not from this, mindset was not the right word there, not from this three-dimensional physical identity. I've talked about this in other videos, how we're actually not in control of our lives at all. And that is a beautiful thing. We get to let go. That's what creates so much calm and peace in our lives, when we learn that, like, oh, right, I can just surrender to the flow of the universe and just make sure that I'm following the direction of love as often as possible, because that's going to lead me to the best options. So we don't get to decide on the specific timing of our lives. If we did, I wouldn't be in Montreal anymore, and I wouldn't be single anymore. I'd be living in Hawaii with the love of my life. And, actually, realistically, I'd be traveling the world, performing on stage, singing to 50,000 people every night kind of thing. We don't get to. Our higher selves get to sort of make certain decisions. And before we came into this life, we made certain decisions about what we wanted to experience. We need to understand and remember that the point of this life is not 3D goals. The point of this life isn't to achieve wealth or even to achieve love or even to achieve, mission work for other people. The goal of this life for each of us is inner growth, evolution, healing. And we chose a certain path in our lives that is going to help us learn and grow and evolve. So we're trying to experience certain things in our lives to move us into better, more evolved versions of ourselves. And what was really messing with the people that got in touch with me, afraid about what's going to happen with the law of attraction, was, and one of them in particular, was feeling a lot of stress and a lot of pressure around this idea that she creates her own reality. That, oh my God, if I'm in control of absolutely everything that happens to me, and therefore I need to be very, very careful about what I think, almost as if she was living in, I never remember which is the good one or which is the bad one, but I think North Korea, North Korea or South Korea, which is the good one, which is the bad one. Anyways, in that Korea where they believe that their leader can read all of their thoughts. And if you think anything bad about the divine leader, then you're going to get thrown in jail. That's the kind of stress and pressure that she's walking around with every moment of every day, because she's afraid that she is in that direct control of what is going to happen in her life. That's really not how it goes. It's not, you don't get to control things that directly. your higher self, maybe God, maybe the universe, maybe, depending on how you want to look at things. But you do not control what comes into your life. You can only control how you respond to what comes into your life. And based on how you respond, you will either move further up on this spiral of spiritual evolution, of emotional wellness, of three-dimensional success, or you will move down on that spiral of emotional evolution and success and all that stuff. You do not get to control exactly what happens in your life. You only get to control whether you're moving up overall in this, there's constant ups and downs, whether you're moving up overall, an upwards trend like a stock, or whether you're going down overall. And this also doesn't happen on a day-to-day basis. It happens on a more extended timeline, which is why even those that talk about manifesting in this intense spiritual sense talk about a delay that happens. There's a big delay between what we think and what we want and what we focus on and when that thing comes into our life. So no, you do not control reality with your thoughts. You control yourself with your thoughts. But again, it's not even about the thoughts. It's about the emotions. Remember, this is what we're doing throughout this whole course. We're trying to learn how to bypass the brain and connect directly to the heart, because that's where real, true guidance comes from. So the more that you're focused on your thoughts, and the more that you're afraid of whether your thoughts are going to attract negative things into your life, the more that you are going to keep on acting from a place of stress, a place of worry, a place of fear, and thereby attract certain things into your life. Not by this weird esoteric means of energy attraction, but by an actual practical experience of, I believe that everything is terrible and therefore I act in a terrible way and therefore I move in that direction. So we need to understand this from the energy and emotions point of view. And now that we can hopefully start looking at things in that way, yes, there is a metaphysical explanation to what is happening with the law of attraction. And I talk about this in my book. I give my full metaphysical explanation of what is happening, my understanding of what is happening at the multidimensional level. I don't want to get into that today, because I think that especially for the people that I'm making this video for, it's only going to distract you more. So try to understand, I guess the main point that I'm trying to express right now is that you cannot think about the spiritual side of the law of attraction from the same way of thinking that you do everything else. Your logic that you apply to the world is irrelevant when it comes to the spiritual world. Your cause and effect mentality is irrelevant when it comes to the physical world, the same way that this wall is irrelevant to a being that exists only as a heat signature. The wall is nothing. Or, let's say if we were to say sound, a being that is composed entirely of sound can move through a wall a hell of a lot easier than my hand can, because a wall isn't soundproof most of the time. Let's not get into that. So depending on which reality you exist in, and we exist in a physical reality, different things are relevant to you. And you cannot apply a Newtonian set of standards to a quantum mechanics point of view. So this idea that my thoughts are going to create a reality, like my thought of a gold brick is going to make a gold brick appear, that's two completely different realms of existence. Your thoughts are a three-dimensional experience. Again, they're not actual things, but they exist as a representation of your three-dimensional world. And the gold brick, if you're trying to attract it through the law of attraction without actually taking physical action, that's a five-dimensional mechanism. So you can't use three-dimensional thinking for a fifth-dimensional mechanism. It doesn't work. They are two completely separate things that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. So the way that you are interpreting your life and cause and effect right now are completely irrelevant to the law of attraction. Law of attraction at that spiritual level is all about energy. It's all about a representation that, like, if you were to look at me right now and see my energy, energy has a particular color, a certain aura. So if you were to look at me right now and see that my energy is yellow, then I am more likely to attract yellow into my life. But yellow is, so let's say it's sort of this abstract concept that needs to then take form. So let's say yellow represents wealth, let's just say. So let's say I'm giving off this energy of wealth and I'm attracting the energy of wealth. That energy of wealth as an abstract then kind of gets shined through the prism of three-dimensional reality and takes form in three-dimensional reality. And it can take form in a lot of different ways. Maybe it takes the form of money. Maybe it takes the form of diamonds. Maybe it takes the form of a free sandwich. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but it can take on any. So if you want to look at the metaphysical version of the law of attraction, then you need to first be looking at things through that lens, through the lens of energy, where you're not seeing my body, you're seeing my energy. That is how the metaphysical side of these things work. It's not the same set of rules as the physical world, and it is an abstract. Energy is an abstract in the physical world. It's not, it is absolutely real, but it's not real in the sense, like, you can't point to energy. You can't point to love. You can't point to happiness. Those are emotions. They're energies of a certain frequency, which you can point to a person experiencing love. You can point to a person experiencing happiness. You can point to a thing that might resonate with love, but you cannot point to love. And that is what the law of attraction is at the metaphysical side of things. It's an abstract concept. So you need to understand this distinction between the three-dimensional world and the five-dimensional world. Five-dimension where everything is energy, three-dimensional where everything is physical. And to me, the fourth dimension is emotion. It's something that we experience that doesn't necessarily have physical reality, that can't be pointed to. And it is the realm through which the abstract gets translated into the practical and the physical, and the other way around, the dimension through which the practical and the physical gets translated into the other side of things. Okay, so you cannot use three-dimensional understandings to tackle the fifth dimension. So for now, for anyone who is afraid of what the law of attraction may or may not do, focus on the practical side of things and focus on energy and emotions. That's all that you need to do, ever. This is what we're learning in this course, that the more that you learn to tap into your energy and into your emotions, the more that your heart will guide you. And your heart isn't connected to your thoughts in the same way. It's more connected to the abstract. This is the whole point. We are trying to use our emotions, to master our emotions, so that we can connect the 3D world with the 5D world. This is what it means to connect with our higher self. That so far we've been living our lives in the 3D world, separated from our higher selves in the 5D world. And the way in which we can bring those two together is by mastering our emotions right here in the middle. That's what this is all about. So if you want to make the law of attraction work for you, you need to master your emotions. And that's why I teach what I teach. And this is how, once you master your emotions, now you are following what your emotions are telling you more than what your head is telling you. Because your head is designed for fear and for practicality in ways that, like, you're going to think about all the things that caused you pain in the past, and you're going to try and avoid those things. Whereas your heart is always focused on love and focused on what your head is, on what the higher dimensions are kind of telling you. So we've been living here, separated from the fifth dimension, because we weren't connected to our emotions. But when we can move here, then our physical reality gets to connect more with the fifth dimension, and we get to bring that in here also. And this is what attaining 5D really means. We still get, and this is the beauty of what, people who talk about ascension, talk about the amazing thing that's happening right now, where for the first time in all of existence, we get to experience ascension in our physical bodies. This is what we're doing right now. We're learning how to connect to the spiritual world while maintaining our physical form. And the gateway, the way to do that is through our emotions. That's what we need to focus on. That's all that you ever need to do. Because as I was showing, like when my emotions are down, I know that that's a good thing. Okay, well, I'm feeling some resistance, or I'm feeling some low emotions, and that just means that right now I'm experiencing some healing, and that's a great thing. And I get to feel my emotions in that moment instead of running from them, instead of trying to solve them. Because when the negative emotions come up from in here, these negative emotions that we didn't deal with come up in here. When we don't know how to deal with them and how to sit with them, what we do is we move towards the 3D world. We feel sadness, we feel anger, we feel anxiety, and we move up to the thoughts of, ooh, where is this sadness or anxiety coming from? Let's try and solve that problem. Emotions come up, we search for an external reason, we find an external reason, and we put our focus there. Whereas what we want to do is learn how to, when the emotion comes up, we're going to connect more with the fifth dimensional thinking, the bigger understanding of what's really going on when we're experiencing this, which allows the emotion to come up and get released straight through our heart, actually, without going up to our heads. It comes up to the heart and we release it. And therefore we get to bring in more light and more love and more attachment to our higher self. Attachment is, again, the wrong word. More connection with our higher self. So we get to experience a very different version of what's happening in that moment. And we get to tune in and tap more into the higher dimensional version of reality and allow our hearts to guide us based on what the higher dimensions are leading us towards, even when the 3D and the mind don't understand. So this is the 3D thinking, the physical world outside of us and our thoughts. Here is the fifth dimensional world, which is energy and intangible sort of stuff, the abstract, and our emotions. Which is going to guide you? Your thoughts or your emotions? If your thoughts are guiding you, you're connecting to the 3D world. If your emotions are guiding you, you're connecting a little more to the 5D. So this is what we are trying to do. All right. So I think that's about it. There were some other things that I kind of thought of talking about, but like I said, I don't want to get into the metaphysical explanation of what's going on, because I think that's just going to confuse and hurt people even more. Like, not hurt you exactly, but it's going to confuse the very important message that I had for you guys today, which is focus in general. Focus on your emotions. That's all that you need to do. When you focus on, improving and feeling your emotions and allowing the emotions to transfer through you and to be released so that you can move into a level of love and all that sort of stuff, then you will naturally start gravitating in a practical way to a better life for yourself. Whereas if you focus on all the horrible things that are going wrong, then you'll gravitate more in that direction. So I want you to focus on your emotions at any given moment, because that's all that really matters. Because that's where your suffering really is anyway. Your suffering isn't about the thoughts, it's about the emotions, okay? So I want you to focus on that. And also, if you're thinking about the law of attraction at all, to focus on the practical element of it. Focus on how your thoughts and beliefs are going to impact your decisions. They're going to impact your relationships and your conversations and what opportunities come to you. If you're a positive, optimistic person, more people are going to offer you good opportunities. Whereas if you are a pessimistic, angry, aggressive, rude person, then they're not going to offer that to you, and you're not going to take them up on it because you believe that everything is terrible and blah blah blah. There are all these things. So focus on your emotions and focus on the practical elements. And only once you are able to start naturally understanding things in the sense of energy, only once you can see the code of the matrix, should you start even considering this whole element of I am a creator being. All right, I'm going to cut it off there because my voice is getting very tired, and that's about it. I hope you guys got a lot from this, and thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. For any of you that are watching on my YouTube channel, then like I said, this was an extended training for my course on self-love and shadow work and emotional mastery. So if you sign up for it, you get the whole course. You also get access to me. You get access to extended trainings like this. So it just keeps on going. It keeps getting better. You're going to keep on learning. And if you want to use the law of attraction, then this is what you need to master. You need to master your emotions to move in that direction. So, there'll be a link in the description if you want to check out the course, or if you want to get started a little more simply, you can grab my book, 10 Mind Hacks for Quicker Emotional Healing. Chapter 10 is all about this and goes into even a little more detail of what I talked about today. It also talks about how to use manifesting scripts to actually properly manifest what you want. Although this is actually even the second book really in my series, the first one being Feelings First, Shadow Work, a simple approach to self-love and emotional mastery, which in general, I recommend that you start with that. But if you're mainly interested in some quick practical tips and a better understanding of the law of attraction and manifesting, then you can grab this one. So links for all of that will be in the description below. And I really hope this cleared up a lot of misunderstandings and that this will help you relax a little bit about the negative side of the law of attraction, how that all works. Okay. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much, guys. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.